Hey, what's up, y'all? Out scouting corn this morning, and it ain't supposed to look like this. This ain't gonna be good. Let's get to work, find out what's going on. Okay, so this call, the farmer's upset about a thin stand, which it's not hard to tell. We got two different hybrids out here. One's got a final stand 18,000, and one around 28,000. Neither one is where we want to be. And as you can see, hybrid on the left is a little thicker than the one on the right, but both of them are showing some chemical damage and a lot of missing plants. So we got to figure out what's going on here. So this field was planted on the 8th of June. The cover crop was plowed under, planted and sprayed the same day. It's been very hot, very dry, and the stand's just kind of ratty looking. So these two plants here, you can see where the leaves are kind of melted together and it's buggy whipped over and just kind of disfigured as these leaves are trying to unfurl. And that's the first thing that's caught my eye as a clue to kind of what's going on. Just real uneven emergence, real different leaf stages. But this here's caught my eye right away. We'll have to dig into this a little bit more. It's been so hot and dry, it's just about cooked to death. But you can see where this one leafed out under the ground. Leafing out under the ground and what's left of the mesocotyl there all goobered up, those are cold weather problems. This is hot weather. Looking at what caused these plants to leaf out under the ground when it was 80 degrees out. There's another one leafed out under the ground and just about completely disintegrated in this heat. Now here's a couple that germinated and leafed out underground, but it's been so hot and dry that the green leaf material has desiccated and evaporated, and all that's left is the seed coat and the tip of the mesocotyl and the radicle where they tried to grow, but a couple more that had leafed out underneath and didn't make it. If we take a look at this plant sample here, this is the mesocotyl, and that should be a straight line from where the seed was here straight up to the soil line. As you can see, that thing's all gnarly and twisted around, which is either chilling inhibition, which it's been in the 80s ever since this was planted, or chemical damage. And there's the other one. You can still see seed coat there and see how that mesocotyl's all corkscrewed around and crooked. It's leading me on the idea of herbicide damage. So this one, a full size, healthy looking plant, but if we look down at the growing point, we can still see that mesocotyl is all screwed around and even U-shaped. So even the bigger, healthier plants have been damaged as well. Okay, I think I got figured out what's going on here. It's kind of an odd situation in story. So we've got two hybrids behind me. We got this one over here and this one here. A peculiarity about these two numbers is I know this one here takes 120 GDUs to get out of the ground, while this one takes 150 GDUs. About 24 or 32 hour difference between emergence in them, which is going to be key. So as a reminder, this was tilled, planted, and sprayed all on the same day. And after that day, it was extremely hot and extremely dry. So one of the things that come immediately to mind looking at the symptomology of the plants is herbicide damage, because the other characteristics of this type of damage was cold chill inhibition, and it certainly hadn't been cold. So this had been sprayed with a group 15 herbicide, which are typically very safe and reliable residual products. But in this extreme heat and dryness, we are seeing quite a bit of symptomology in the crops, because that herbicide is metabolized by the plant. Now, the group 15 herbicides tend to be water activated, so you need a 1/2 inch of rain to get them to release and activated. And the other characteristic is they're shoot inhibitors. They prevent the development of the shoot and the sprout of the weeds, and that's what makes them a real good herbicide. So we planted this one and sprayed it with a Group 15 herbicide on the same day. And if we go back to the GDU calculator and follow it forward in time, we know that this field would have germinated around June 15th and June 16th. And we know that this one would have been a day and a half ahead of this one. What also happened on June 15th and 16th is this field got a ½ inch of rain, which is what is needed to activate the Group 15 herbicide. So if you think about this cornfield when they were just little bitty sprouts, just right at the soil line getting ready to bust through. Maybe this one was spiking, we could almost row this one here. This one was about a ½ inch below the soil yet and wasn't quite ready to spike through. And then we've got that herbicide application laying right on top of the ground. It's still there, it's just laying there on top of the ground. And these little plants have been pushing and growing and trying hard to get out without any much soil moisture. They're just living off the seed germ. And so they're very parched, very thirsty little plants getting ready to come through. You get a ½ inch of rain. That's the first drink of water this field has. And it grabs that herbicide application at the soil level and it carries it right down into the soil profile with the moisture. And these little plants that are all parched and needing water, the first thing they do is they suck up all that moisture along with a full dose of herbicide. Now, if the soil moistures had been higher after planting, say 40, 50, 60%, that herbicide would have released slowly and we would not have seen the symptomology in the plants. But we got that ½ inch of rain, and that was that first drink of water this plant had, and it all released at once and just boom, dumped that full dose of herbicide right into the plant. Then we started seeing symptomology. Even from the biggest plants to the littlest plants, you can see that warping or that corkscrewing of the mesocotyl, which tells us that everything got a full drink on that 15th or 16th of June when the rain hit. Now this one, because it was spiking and you could see it down the road, was just ahead of this one. The damage wasn't as terminal. You can dig up any of these plants and still see the herbicide damage in them, but it wasn't as critical because they were bigger plants and started their way out of the ground. These over here that were a day and a half behind and still a ½ inch below the soil line, much more delicate and took that full brunt of herbicide. It was a much more lethal dose. So we have a higher rate of missing plants on this one, a higher rate of damaged plants that even came up but didn't really develop into a viable plant. So it's just a tremendous collision of circumstances. But you can do everything right. You can plan it out. You can use safe products, but just small windows in time. That 24 or 32 hours in emergence. The application, the rain events, all that works together, and in most years you never see those coincidences collide. But in this one, everything kind of came together and hammered this crop a little harder than it needed to be. So unfortunately, this one's going to be a pretty thin stand. This is not isolated. We are seeing a lot of damage from the Group 15s this year because of these type of weather events. It is rare. They are typically a very safe herbicide and a tremendous residual product for keeping your fields clean. But when the stars align, so to speak, you can get damage with any herbicide, and this is one of those examples. So as I mentioned before, the hot, dry weather and these parched plants, we're seeing crop response to some otherwise really safe chemicals. And so here's another example of some Group 15 crop response in soybeans. This is the same thing that was sprayed in the corn that we're looking at. This looks very similar to Group 4 damage, which would be dicamba or 2,4-D, but this is actually Group 15. You see the yellowing between the veins along the margins, and typically it just draws in this point right here, makes little heart-shaped leaves. But a lot of this showing up every sprayer overlap in every soybean field in this county. where they use a group 15 residual, you can see this type of response. It's primarily cosmetic. We got a lot of growing to do. As soon as it rains, these soybeans will blow right past, but for now they're just feeling a little puny, because they were parched. They got a full dose of herbicide, and not enough rain to grow through it timely, but they'll be all right.